Have you ever wondered why, despite following all the rules, working harder than everyone else, and keeping your integrity intact, the bank accounts of the scoundrels around you seem to sprout from the ground while yours merely survives? There is an open wound in your psyche, a latent fear that your goodness is, in fact, your sentence of mediocrity. What you call ethics, Machiavelli would call a silk handcuff, a control mechanism designed to ensure you remain on the bottom floor, applauding the success of men who are not afraid to get their hands dirty in the shadows. The truth that no one dares to whisper in cheap motivational seminars is that money is not a reward for moral merit, but a trophy for strategic predation. They sold you the illusion that wealth is the byproduct of honesty, but that is the greatest lie ever told to keep the masses docile and predictable on the chessboard of social domination. What you believe to be your greatest virtue or desire to be nice is the gap through which your power leaks every day. While you seek approval and avoid conflict, the architects of fortune are mapping your weaknesses and using your morality as a blindfold for your eyes. There is a forbidden secret about the nature of capital, an unwritten law that separates submissive providers from absolute sovereigns, and I am about to place that key in your hands if you have the stomach to endure what it opens. Your current state of frustration is not an error of fate, but the direct result of fighting a wolf's war using a sheep's instruction manual. You are part of a select group that has stopped believing in the theater of appearances and has begun to feel the chill of the abyss whispering that mercy is an operating cost you can no longer afford. To ascend, you must go through a shedding of the spirit. Leave behind the infantile need to be loved and embrace the adult need to be feared and respected for your results. The nihilism you feel when looking at your bank balance is the beginning of your enlightenment. The realization that rules were made by those who plan to break them. Imagine a future where you are no longer the piece being moved, but the player himself who defines where the gold should accumulate. A world where your emotional coldness is your greatest ally and where every handshake is a calculation of cost and benefit, not a pact of naive friendship. You are being invited to abandon the masses who take pride in their own poverty to join the few who understand that money is the materialization of the will to power. Your initiation journey begins now, and the price of entry is the willingness to sacrifice your image of a good man on the altar of your absolute efficacy. This is not a finance guide, but an autopsy of the servile morality that keeps you poor. What I am going to reveal to you in the next few minutes is the anatomy of the scam that society pulls on intelligent men so they never become dangerous. If you continue watching, you seal a pact with the brutal truth that wealth requires a surgical coldness that most mistake for evil. The stage is set, the masks are falling, and the conclusion of this video will be the final nail in the coffin of your vulnerable version. Learn now the difference between being an ethical servant and a wealthy master, or accept the fate of being the ladder to the throne of someone who had the courage you used to lack. Thumbnail suggestion: absolute black background with crimson red details. A man in a tailored suit, sitting in a classic armchair, with his face partially hidden by a dense shadow, holding a gold coin or a crystal glass. In the corner. Text in metallic gold: the cost of kindness, or why they are rich and you are not. Your first and deepest wound is the blind belief that ethics and profit walk hand in hand in a just harmony. You were programmed to believe that money is a kind of certificate of good behavior, a divine reward for those who follow the rules and treat others with an almost servile benevolence. However, the reality of the power market is a nihilistic battlefield, where your goodness is red as predictability and your empathy is a gap for exploitation. Machiavelli teaches us that the man who tries to be good at all times is bound to ruin among so many who are not good. Your wealth is being drained by your own need to keep your hands clean in a world that rewards surgical coldness. The contrast between being correct and being effective is the barrier that keeps you at the base of the pyramid. Watching the wolves devour what you judge should be yours. While you seek the approval of the group and the seal of a good man, the sovereign is busy dominating the variables that actually move capital: fear, necessity, and the dependence of others. You feel vulnerable every time you need to charge what is fair or negotiate with aggression, because deep down, you fear being labeled as greedy. Control, however, does not belong to those who feel guilt, but to those who are impenetrable to the judgment of others and understand that gold flows where the will to power is densest and least hesitant. Why do you still cling to this morality that clearly is not paying your bills? The question that corrodes your interior is, how many opportunities have I already passed up just so I would unlook like the villain of the story? This desire to be loved by your subordinates and peers is the chain that binds you to financial mediocrity. Money has no moral memory. It is a resource that accumulates in the vacuum left by the weakness of others. If you are not capable of exercising the emotional coldness necessary to put your profit above the comfort of others, you will never be a player, only a resource to be used by those who have already abandoned the theater of kindness. Do you notice how those at the top seem to operate under a logic that scares and fascinates you at the same time? They are not evil in the cartoonish sense. They are just strategically neutral. They see money as the blood of the system and themselves as the surgeons who decide where that flow should be directed. While you worry about being nice, you are handing over your decision-making power to someone who will not hesitate to replace you with someone cheaper and less idealistic. The forbidden truth is that your bank account is the exact reflection of your inability to impose your will on reality without apologizing. To begin your transmutation into a master of capital, you must first assassinate the version of yourself that seeks heaven while living in the hell of scarcity. Wealth requires a mental coldness that separates value from feeling. It is necessary to learn to look at people as gears of a production system and not as ends in themselves. The first step of your ascent is to accept that your goodness has been your greatest operating cost. From now on, profit will be your only metric of justice and domination, your only moral objective. Are you ready to admit that your poverty is the tithe you pay to a religion of losers? What was the exact value that your ethics cost you in the last negotiation where you preferred to be kind rather than lethal? Reveal the price of your submission at the altar of others' approval. The second stage of our psychological autopsy reveals that what you call social justice is, in fact, the defense mechanism of the incapable. Machiavelli warned that the prince who trusts in the gratitude of men builds upon sand. For money is the only bond that does not break under pressure. You believe that by being generous with your employees or partners, you are buying loyalty, but you are only teaching them to be fat and slow at your expense. In the contrast between mercy and productivity, mercy is the cancer that corrodes your empire. The master of capital understands that excess benevolence attracts parasites, while controlled scarcity generates focused and productive subjects. Your wound here is the need to be seen as a humane provider. You seek emotional connection to validate your position. But in the game of domination, connection is the entry point for sabotage. While you worry if your profit is excessive, the system is calculating how fast you can be replaced by someone who does not have these moral dilemmas. Control requires you to be impenetrable to the stories of others, pain that aim only to drain your resources. The question you must ask yourself in the silence of your accounting is, do I want to be loved by those I support, or do I want to be the master of my own freedom? The visceral truth is that the market is not a community. It is an ecosystem of predation. You have been the prey that takes pride in being fair, while being devoured piece by piece. The financial sovereign does not feel, he measures. He does not care about intention, but about the net result. Kindness is a public relations technique, a mask you wear to soften the impact of your strength, never the engine of your If your profit depends on reducing someone else's cost, you must act with the surgical coldness of one who cuts off a limb to save the body without your hand, trembling for a single second under the weight of average morality. Have you already noticed how your hesitation to fire, charge, or cut expenses is always disguised as human understanding? That is your fear of the loneliness of command acting against your wealth. Money is an energy that requires a conductor of iron, not one of silk. The moment you allow feeling to dictate the price, you have lost sovereignty over your capital. Your wealth will only grow when you learn to treat money as a tool of domination, a resource that must be accumulated and protected with the same ferocity with which a lion protects its kill, ignoring the lament of the hyenas around it. Your training for financial power requires you to recognize profit as the only proof of virtue in a nihilistic world. The contrast between being vulnerable to public opinion and being sovereign of your own fortune resides in your capacity to be the villain in the story of those who lost, while you write your story of victory. The worst thing an intelligent businessman can do is believe that success is a team sport where everyone wins equally. Wealth is a hierarchy of cold competence. Are you ready to accept that your growth requires you to stop financing the inefficiency of others with the blood of your profit? When was the last time you lost money or an opportunity because you felt sorry for someone who clearly would not have the same consideration for you? Identify the emotional vampire that is feeding off your effort. The third stage of our journey dissects the illusory security of horizontal cooperation. You are taught that networking and mutually beneficial partnerships are the key to prosperity. But Machiavelli reveals that dependence is the true name of this trap. In the contrast between being useful and being necessary, the nice guy strives to be useful, becoming a replaceable and cheap piece, while the sovereign seeks to be the vital source that others fear losing. Money does not flow to those who make others' lives easier, but to those who hold control over the resources that others desperately need. Your weakness resides in your urgency to be helpful, a servitude disguised as proactivity that only signals to the market that your price is low and your will is docilely. The question that must pierce your self-confidence is, if I disappeared today, would my market suffer or just find another smiling supplier? The financial sovereign cultivates a strategic coldness that keeps allies in a state of productive tension. He understands that respect is a derivative of the fear of loss, not gratitude for gain. While you go out of your way to be the ideal partner, you are only financing the tranquility of your competitors. Real wealth requires you to be impenetrable to the need to be liked, transforming your presence into an expensive privilege and your absence into a catastrophic crisis for those orbiting your power. Have you already noticed how capital flees from hands that tremble when asking for what is rightfully theirs? Money is attracted by unshakable authority, by the conviction of someone who knows their time is the most valuable commodity in the room. The nice guy asks permission to prosper, while the master of power occupies the space and defines the price without looking back. Your search for consensus is what drains your profit margin. Every concession you make to maintain the good atmosphere is a brick you remove from the foundation of your empire. The contrast between the feeling of harmony and market domination is absolute. You can not have both if you want the top of the pyramid. Your financial intelligence must be applied like a precision blade that cuts away any relationship that does not offer an exponential return on your investment of energy. Mercy toward the inefficient is a crime against your own future. In Machiavelli's game, fortune favors the bold who are not afraid to be hated, as long as they are indispensable. Money does not recognize your sweat. It recognizes only your ability to architect scarcity. If you are too accessible, you are trash. If you are the final solution to a painful problem, you are the owner of the price and, consequently, the master of those who pay. To transmute your scarcity into sovereignty, you must embrace the loneliness of financial command. Profit is a cold judgment on your ability to be superior. Stop seeking justice in contracts and start seeking advantage. The world of nice guys is a graveyard of good intentions where the tombstones are made of debts and broken promises. From now on, your only ethics will be the preservation of your capital and the expansion of your influence. Are you ready to be the hand that squeezes the market's neck until it delivers what is yours by right of force? What was the favor you provided for free to strengthen a friendship, only to see that same person profit from your strategic ingenuity shortly after? Identify the price of your silence in the face of your own exploitation. The fourth stage of our psychological autopsy unmasks the lie of corporate peace. You are convinced that being a diplomat, a conciliator who avoids friction, is the smartest posture for ascending. But Machiavelli's truth is that conflict is the raw material of profit. In the contrast between passive consensus and aggressive victory, the nice guy dies suffocated by his own civility, while the strategist uses tension to extract impossible concessions. Money does not like calm environments. It likes to be the prize for those who have the courage to break the order to establish a new one, where they themselves are the judge. Your search for harmony is, in reality, a cowardly fear of facing the predatory face of success. The question that must torture your sense of morality is, how much of my wealth have I already given as a gift to my rivals just because I didn't want to look arrogant? The sovereign understands that strategic arrogance is a tool for demarcating territory. While you worry about not hurting egos, the system is laughing at your weakness. Wealth requires you to be impenetrable to the desire to be seen as someone easy to deal with. In the market, being easy to deal with is code for being easy to plunder. Your readiness for conflict is what defines the size of your empire. Whoever retreats to maintain peace is only financing the adversary's war with their own capital. Have you already noticed how major financial deals are closed based on strength and resistance, and not on kindness? Money respects the coldness of controlled aggression. By seeking to be the peacemaker, you put yourself in the position of mediatra useful peace, but never the owner of the prize. The nice guy believes the cake is infinite, but the master of power knows that the economy is a zero-sum geometry. For your balance to rise, the other's resistance must be broken. Your hesitation to pressure a supplier, a client, or a competitor is what Machiavelli would call treason against your own fortune. Your intelligence must be applied to identify where the order is stagnant and where chaos can be profitable. Mercy toward the status quo is the death of financial innovation. In the game of social domination, you must be the agent of disruption. If you are not capable of bearing the weight of being the villain who breaks disadvantageous contracts or imposes lopsided terms, you will eternally be the extra on the stage that you yourself pay to maintain. Money does not forgive a lack of resolve. It flows from the hands of those who hesitate and solidifies in the vault of those who act with the determination of an executioner in the name of their own growth. To transmute your diplomacy into dominance, you must adopt the coldness of the relentless negotiator. Stop seeking win-win solutions that are merely defeats disguised as balance. Start seeking predominance. The world of nice guys is a shadow theater where everyone feigns friendship while stealing your time. From now on, your only harmony will be the sound of your assets growing amidst the silence of those you surpassed. Are you ready to embrace conflict as your greatest financial ally and stop being the system's gentle victim? When was the last time you accepted inferior terms in a contract just not to cause discomfort? And how much future freedom did you sacrifice for that minute of cheap peace? Identify the cost of your social cowardice. The fifth stage of our psychological autopsy dissects the lie of pure meritocracy, the opium that keeps the nice guys working in silence while the sovereigns reap the fruits. You believe that technical excellence and honest effort are the only engines of financial rise. But Machiavelli reveals that money is a phenomenon of alliances and debts, not participation medals. In the contrast between hard work and political positioning, the nice guy buries himself in execution, becoming the system's invisible slave. While the master of power dedicates his energy to creating webs of dependence, gold does not flow to those who do more, but to those who convince others that their success is in their interest. The question that must shatter your routine is, why do I continue polishing the gear if the machine owner is the one who decides where the oil goes? The financial sovereign cultivates a calculating coldness when treating human relationships as exchange assets. He understands that disinterested kindness is a waste of ammunition. While you pride yourself on helping without looking at whom, you are only financing the rise of competitors who will not have the slightest scruple about running you over in the future. Wealth requires you to be impenetrable to the idea of spontaneous justice. You must be the architect who designs your own bridges, ensuring that no one crosses without paying the toll of your sovereignty. Have you already noticed how the highest profit positions are occupied by those who know how to manage people, and not by those who know how to solve technical problems? Money respects the psychology of influence. By focusing only on being the best employee or the most honest service provider, you become a fixed cost in someone's balance sheet, a resource to be optimized and reduced. The nice guy waits to be discovered, but the sovereign imposes himself through the manipulation of perception. Your radical honesty is what prevents you from seeing the social arbitrage opportunities that generate fortunes overnight. Real profit is born from the ability to see what others ignore because they are too busy being proper. Your intelligence must be applied to understand that capital is a game of favors collected with interest. Mercy toward your own ethical biography is what prevents you from being the creditor of others' lives. In the game of social domination, you must seek the emotional and financial debt of others as if it were oxygen. If you are the one who always owes whether favors or explanations whose are the subordinate, the sovereign is the one who grants, but grants under terms that ensure their perpetual predominance. Money is not the end. It is the means by which you buy the time and will of those who are too weak to be masters of themselves. To transmute your toil into leadership, you must adopt the coldness of the backstage strategist. Stop believing that your current salary or revenue is a reflection of your human value. It is only a reflection of how much you allowed others to pay you to stay quiet. The world of nice guys is an office lit by fluorescence, where ambition dies of boredom. From now on, your only metric will be the amount of influence you have accumulated and how it can be converted into net worth. Are you ready to stop being the tool and start being the hand that handles it with absolute precision? What was the promotion or contract you lost to someone less qualified, but who knew exactly whose hand to shake and which secret to keep? Identify the moment when your technical purity became your greatest defeat. The sixth stage of our autopsy focuses on your slavery to public image. You were trained to believe that your reputation as a proper person is your greatest asset. But in the economy of power, that reputation is your golden cage. Machiavelli taught that the prince must appear virtuous, but be ready to act against virtue the instant necessity demands. In the contrast between social prestige and real power, The nice guy sacrifices profit to maintain the admiration of the mediocre, while the sovereign sacrifices admiration to ensure dominance. Money flees from those who are afraid of being the subject of malicious talk. It stabilizes in the hands of those who learn that the hatred of the powerless is the sound of success knocking at the door. The question that must incinerate your vanity is, how much money did I leave on the table just so people I do uneven respect continue to think I am someone nice? The financial sovereign cultivates a surgical coldness regarding others' opinions. He understands that the morality of the masses is designed to keep the strong under control, while you worry about being politically correct or ethical in the terms of the majority. You are only following the script written by those who want your place. Wealth requires you to be impenetrable to the censure of the weak. The worst thing you can do is let your bank account be governed by the need to be accepted by a herd that does not have a cent to offer you. Have you already noticed how the richest men in the world are frequently the most criticized and vilified? This is no coincidence. It is the tribute of sovereignty. The nice guy wants the money but wants to keep his soul immaculate in the eyes of the public. The master of power knows that the soul is private, but wealth is what dictates the law in the physical world. Your search for being loved is what makes you manipulatable by anyone who threatens to withdraw that affection from you. Capital requires an owner who is not shaken by Booza surgeon who knows that for the body to prosper, some cells will have to hate the scalpel. Your intelligence must be applied to understand that morality is a variable resource. Mercy toward your image is what prevents you from making the brutal decisions that exponential growth requires. In the game of social domination, you must use virtue as a garment, not as a skin. If maintaining your goodness costs your financial freedom, the price is too high and the deal is rotten. Money is not accumulated by those who apologize for being successful, but by those who understand that the only real shame in a nihilistic system is powerless poverty. To transmute your need for approval into financial authority, you must adopt the coldness of solitary judgment. Stop seeking the social thumbs up and start seeking the dividend. The world of nice guys is a choir of hypocrisy, where everyone pretends to be saints while fighting for the scraps the sovereign dropped. From now on, your only necessary approval will be that of your own balance sheet. Are you ready to be hated by many while enjoying the freedom that only the few who ignore average morality can buy? What was the profitable decision you did not make because you were afraid of what they would think of you or what they would say in your family? Identify the moment when your cheap honor bought your economic submission. The seventh stage of our psychological autopsy dissects the addiction to reactive generosity, the disease that makes you distribute your resources to relieve the guilt of being superior. You were taught that he who gives, receives. But in Machiavelli's laboratory, he who gives without strategy only signals that he does not know the value of what he possesses. In the contrast between impulsive charity and sovereign investment, the nice guy hands over his capital to save those who do not want to be saved, while the master of power understands that money is a seed that should only be planted in soil that offers a harvest of influence. Your open hand is not a sign of nobility. It is a hemorrhage of power that attracts low-level predators ready to lick the crumbs of your weakness disguised as altruism. The question that must shatter your image of a saint is, am I helping others because they need it, or because I am too weak to endure their gaze of disapproval? The financial sovereign cultivates an analytical coldness that separates real need from emotional manipulation. He understands that every cent given out of mercy is a cent withdrawn from your ability to dominate the future. While you feel good about being the savior of the day, the system is cataloging you as an emotional ATM. Wealth requires you to be impenetrable to the lament of the inefficient. Mercy is the tax that failure charges your intelligence, and you have been paying with abusive interest. The visceral truth is that money given without a counterpart of power is merely an incentive for mediocrity. Have you already noticed how the people you helped most are frequently the first to abandon you when your source runs dry? This occurs because you did not buy loyalty. You bought the hidden contempt of someone who feels inferior for depending on you. The nice guy believes he is creating friends, but he is creating indebted enemies. The master of power, on the other hand, only grants resources in exchange for guarantees, transforming every act of generosity into a golden handcuff that binds the beneficiary to his will to power. Your intelligence must be applied to understand that philanthropy is a public relations game, not a movement of the heart. Mercy towards someone else's pocket is the death of your own vault. In the game of social domination, generosity must be rare, calculated, and extremely loud for the public, while in private, you maintain the coldness of a lone shark. Money does not flow to to heal the world. It flows to those who have the strength to bend the world to their vision. If you spend your capital fixing others' mistakes, you will never have enough to finance your own victories. To transmute your charity into command, you must adopt the coldness of an asset manager. Stop being the cheap solution to problems others created for themselves. Start being the investor who demands majority control of the situation. The world of nice guys is a hospital of wounded egos, where wealth is seen as a sin to be expiated. From now on, your only donation will be the one that cements your authority and expands your territory. Are you ready to close your hand to sentimentalism and open it only to reap the fruits of your strategic predation? What was the loan or help you gave knowing you would never see the return? Just not to say no and look selfish. Identify the exact value you paid to be the slave of an incapable's opinion. The 8th stage of our journey is the death of the servile character. You have reached the core of the truth that Machiavelli reserved only for princes. Money is not the end, but the metric of your existential autonomy. The nice guy's final error is believing that, after accumulating wealth, he must return to the morality of the herd to be forgiven. In the contrast between social redemption and absolute sovereignty, the sovereign understands that forgiveness is a necessity of the weak. Wealth does not serve to integrate you into the group, but to give you the power to ignore it. Your journey ends when you stop seeing money as a means of being someone better and start seeing it as the fuel for your will to power. The question that seals your fate is, do I have the courage to be the only judge of my own fortune? The financial sovereign cultivates a metaphysical coldness. He understands that, at the top, the atmosphere is freezing and solitary, and that average morality is a noise that does not reach the heights of command. While you seek to reconcile your profit with peace of mind, you are merely admitting that you are still a slave to the consciousness, the system implanted in you to keep you poor. Real wealth requires you to be impenetrable to your own guilt. Money is proof that you won the game of reality, and winners do not apologize to those left behind. The visceral truth is that the world belongs to those who can bear the weight of their own freedom. Have you already noticed how the system tries to convince you that money doesn't bring happiness? This is the last barrier of containment, the final spell to prevent nice guys from becoming dangerous. The nice guy accepts poverty as a badge of holiness, while the master of power accepts wealth as his tool for sculpting reality. Capital allows you to no longer need to lie, no longer need to smile out of obligation, and above all, no longer need to be nice to survive. Your intelligence must be applied to consolidate your empire of silence. Mercy toward your old vulnerable self is what prevents you from occupying the throne that your effort built. In the game of social domination, the final act of rebellion against mediocrity is aggressive accumulation and relentless protection of your territory. Money is not dirty. Dirty is the dependence of those who need others' approval to feel valued. If you learned the lesson, you now look at the market and do not see friends or enemies. You see only vectors of force that you must learn to direct in your favor. To conclude your transmutation, you must adopt the coldness of the final architect. Stop asking if what you do is right from the perspective of those who never built anything. Start asking if what you do is effective for maintaining your sovereignty. The world of nice guys was left behind, buried under the weight of your new consciousness. From now on, your only loyalty is to your expansion. Are you ready to step out of the shadows of doubt and assume the blinding light of one who has no more masters, neither moral nor financial? What is the last tie of goodness that you still fear cutting, knowing it is the only obstacle between the man you are and the sovereign you were born to be? Identify the final sacrifice necessary for your coronation. Would you be capable of being the master of an empire the world calls cruel, but which you call your own? Your new nature begins where your fear of wealth ends. This journey does not end here, because the truth you just ingested is not knowledge that can be forgotten, but a poison that kills the average man, so the sovereign can, at last, breathe. What you feel now, this chill running down your spine as you look at your past of concessions and servile smiles, is the weight of the Iron Crown being placed upon your head. You realize that money was never about numbers on a screen, but about the frequency with which you can say no to the world without your voice trembling, and how your former goodness was only the name you gave to your fear of being the author of your own destiny. Look around you and see the theater of mediocrity with new eyes. Where others see friendship and cooperation, you now see the geometry of debts, the dance of intentions, and the power vacuum that awaits the coldest of players. Your ingenuity was left behind like a dead skin, and what remained was a sharp clarity, a lens that transforms social chaos into a clear and predictable board. You no longer inhabit the same reality as the man. You crossed through the mirror and discovered that morality is the break of slaves, while efficacy is the only creed of those who are born to possess the earth.